didn't turn back. She didn't call its name either. But between those two worlds, there was a thread, voiceless, formless, yet never broken. In the heart of the Arizona desert, where time seemed to melt under the sun, a senior sergeant and a young Bobcat once crossed paths. Not by touch, but through the quiet act of survival. 3 years, one remote outpost, one wild creature, and a soldier who had long forgotten how to name what she needed, until it stepped out of the shadows. Do you believe that some encounters, brief as they are, can stay with you for a lifetime? This is a story about one of those encounters, and I promise you will never look at bobcats or loneliness the same way again. The June sun in southern Arizona didn't shine down, it pierced down. Like needles of fire slicing through the still air, scorching the few shadows left clinging to the cracked ground. Where the border between the United States and Mexico blurred under the heat, time ceased to be a concept. It became a state, a sensation of parched skin, the smell of sweat soaked into a military uniform, the monotone sound of sand-laced wind brushing against barbed wire. At Echo Camp, a tiny military outpost tucked deep in a red rock valley where there was nothing but desert, radio transmitters, and silence, Senior Sergeant Lyla Reyes had been stationed for 384 days. She didn't have a calendar. She counted by sounds, the clang of the metal door closing at 6 a.m. every morning, the dull roar of the generator each time night fell, and the echo of her own voice in a sleeping quarter no bigger than a shipping container. She had once stood amidst the bombs in Syria, had once come so close to death she could smell the gunpowder. But what gnawed at her, hour after hour at Echo Camp, wasn't danger. It was the absence of everything. At times, she asked herself, if I suddenly disappeared from this desert post, who would notice first? A logistics officer 3 weeks from now? A border patrol stopping by to retrieve data? Or no one at all? That question played over and over again on afternoons like this. Afternoon number 384. The wind blew in from the west, carrying the scent of scorched earth and the hiss of sand scraping against metal. Heat mirages shimmered on the fractured asphalt road stretching to the horizon. Lyla stood atop the watchtower, a rusted steel frame no more than 5 meters high, but the tallest point within a 30-mile radius. Her hand held binoculars, but her eyes no longer saw, just muscle memory. For 3 months, nothing had changed. No people, no vehicles, no anomalies, only waiting. And then, a sound. Not loud, not clear, not repeated, but real. Lyla frowned, held her breath. She tilted her head, lowered the binoculars, and listened again. Still nothing. Wind, sand, silence. She blinked, shook her head. Probably just an illusion, a trick of the brain after too much isolation. She turned to head back to the cabin. A hoarse sound, a rasp, like a strangled breath. She froze. This time it couldn't be mistaken. Not the wind, not sand, not her own mind playing games. It was the sound of something in pain. Lyla instinctively drew her sidearm, not out of fear, but protocol. This border zone was not gentle. There had been mountain lions, rattlesnakes, coyotes, even delirious migrants crazed by dehydration. She moved slowly toward the noise. Her army boots cracked over the dry soil like brittle glass. The sunlight cast her shadow long behind her, like a wound dragging across the sand. Past a scatter of rocks, she reached a shallow dip between two large slabs of stone where the light bent into a blood-orange hue. And there she saw it, a small creature. Its yellow-gray fur was matted with blood and dust. Its hind leg is dragging, its body curled tight in pain, eyes barely open, a murky, glassy gold, yet something inside them still alive. A young bobcat. It looked at her, didn't hiss, didn't flinch, didn't flee, just looked, as if it had known she would come. Lyla crouched down, keeping her distance. She extended her left hand, palm down. No threat, no force. "Shot, huh?" she murmured, not asking it, just speaking. Speaking to a creature on the edge of life, yet still able to look at her like she was the last friend it would ever have. The wind stilled. Time froze. No sound from the generator. No dessert. Just her and the tiny bobcat, collapsed beneath the sun like a burn left by fate. The kitten didn't move. Wind whistled through the stones, brushing over the thin fur like dry straw. Blood seeped into the sand, spreading in a deep red blotch, merging with dust as if it was dissolving into the desert. Lyla sank lower, her hand still held out. Not too close, not too far. She could hear the creature's breath. Shallow, rapid, broken, like the dying whistle of a sinking ship. In Syria, she had once held the hand of a teammate bleeding from the lower abdomen. That breath, she had heard it before. It was the sound of a life hesitating on whether it should go on. "Hey, little one," she whispered softly, unsure if she was speaking to it or to herself. "How long have you been here?" Of course, the cat didn't answer. It just looked at her. Not fiercely, not fearfully, just looked. A gaze tired down to the bone, yet deep within, there was still a flicker of something, faint, like embers about to die out. Lyla knew that if she stood up and walked away, no one would blame her. There were no cameras, no witnesses. No one would even know it happened. Just a wild animal, a story never to be written, but her feet didn't move. Her hand had already touched the ground, and her heart had tightened inside her chest the moment those eyes met hers. She slowly took off her backpack, pulled out her field jacket, and folded it into a cushion. Then, inch by inch, she crawled closer. Each breath is measured. "Easy. I'm not gonna hurt you." The cat still didn't react. She could smell the tang of blood, the scent of scorched earth and the sunburnt fur. That particular smell of a creature that once had a mother, once had a den, now dying among rock and sand. At last, she gently slid the jacket beneath its body. It made a sound. Just one. Small, choked. Not a growl, not a whimper, but the sound of endurance. She pulled her hand back, waiting. But it didn't move further, didn't struggle, didn't bite, didn't cry. It accepted. She wrapped it in the coat, carefully. That small body fit neatly within the arms of a soldier who had carried weapons 10 times heavier. It was so light, it almost felt unreal, but her hands felt every tiny motion, each twitch of pain, each tremble of a fragile chest, and a heartbeat. Fast, faint, but still there. "Not today," she whispered, tightening her arms just a little. "You're not dying today." Back at camp, she cleared out an old equipment crate, lined it with sweaters, thin blankets, and built a makeshift nest. She wasn't a vet, but she had a first aid kit, some water, a flashlight, and a spotty internet connection. Enough to know the animal needed warmth and shock care. She wore medical gloves and dripped glucose from a tiny vial into its mouth, drop by drop. One drop, then another. Each one it swallowed slowly, but it swallowed. She unwrapped the bandages and checked its leg. A clean wound pierced through soft flesh. No broken bones. But infection had begun. She disinfected it. The creature tensed, its eyes widened, but it still didn't bite. She was hurt by it. After nearly 2 hours, when the sun had burned out and the sky turned from crimson to dusky violet, the little bobcat still hadn't died. It lay curled up, breathing softly, eyes closed, its body trembling with each distant hum of the generator. Lyla sat beside it. Her hand rested on the edge of the crate, not touching. Just there. And in that fleeting space between twilight and night, she no longer felt alone. She gave it a name, not because it needed one, but because she did. Dune. Because it had risen from the sand, because it was silent like the hidden dunes of the desert, existing whether anyone noticed or not. When she turned off the light to sleep, the wind outside still howled the same, but in a small corner of the outpost, within a field-made bed, there was a living creature still breathing and a soldier's heart beating again. Quietly, but stronger than usual. She didn't set an alarm anymore. Ever since Dune appeared, her body awoke naturally at 5:50 each morning, before the sun scorched the ground, before the first wind slipped through the rusty steel bars, because at 6:15 it would appear. Never earlier, never later. Silent as drifting sand, light as breath in a dry forest. "You're here," she murmured, placing the food bowl down like a familiar ritual. No bowing, no command. Dune approached slowly, eyes never leaving her, ate, unhurried, without looking, then turned, vanished into the shaded space behind the container. No sound, no sign of thanks. But Lyla knew it was still here. That afternoon, as she was cleaning her M9 on the camp's porch, the sound of an engine echoed in the distance. A Humvee rolled up, red dust billowing. "Hawkeye 3, this is Echo. Who's coming in?" "Echo, this is Patrol 219. Fuel delivery. Someone wants to see Sergeant Reyes." She frowned. Fuel drops were routine, but wants to see wasn't part of the usual. Jones jumped off the vehicle with his trademark cocky grin, hauling a 20-liter fuel can. "How you're not crazy yet living out here. This place is so quiet. A buzzing fly could make front-page news." "I like quiet." "Uh-huh. No wonder you look like a walking radar tower." She didn't smile. Took the inventory slip, signed. Just then, from behind the container, a soft scratch sound. Jones froze. What was that? He turned, brows furrowed. Lyla froze too. She held her breath, her ears strung tight like wires. No further sound. Jones crept forward a few steps, squinting. "I swear, I saw something flicker." "Wind, sand, mirage," she cut in. Her voice as cold as steel. "Number that thing had fur. Bigger than a lizard, I'm sure." Lyla clenched her fists. You've been here 5 minutes. I've been here 500 days. If anything else is surviving out here besides me, I'll know first. Jones blinked, backed off. Ken huckled awkwardly. All right. No need to bite. Just saying. After Jones left, she slammed the camp door harder than usual. Exhaled. But inside, a flicker of warning burned. Can't be exposed, not even a sound. That night she sat on the steps. Lights off. Cup of cold tea in hand. Hey kid, she whispered into the dark. If you want to stay alive, be smart. Silence isn't enough. Timing matters. A shadow slowly slipped from between the rocks. Dune emerged, eyes reflecting the dim starlight. It didn't come closer, but it didn't leave either. You almost got me killed today, you know that? Dune let out a low growl. The sound was deep, muted, not threatening, not friendly. A halfway sound, like a nod. From then on, they had a survival agreement. When strangers arrived, Dune vanished. When she whistled twice, short and sharp, Dune knew, it's safe, you can come out. And it always listened. On the nights that followed, when everything sank into silence, she'd call it with a unique sound. Tch. Dune would hear and respond with a soft chuff, as if to say, I'm here. Not a pet, not a friend, an ally. She began writing unofficial reports, just for herself. Dune, week 7, began stalking mice. Missed the pounce, but observed for 6 minutes before attacking. Good reflexes. Thigh strength improving. Week 9, upon hearing the patrol siren, I automatically hid behind the container. No signal needed. One evening, as she was checking infrared sensor data, the radio screeched. Echo, we have an unidentified signal west of your position, 3 kilometers out. Confirmed. Not animal, not aircraft. Her first thought was of Dune, but Dune never wandered that far. She looked out the door as if waiting for a quiet blur of golden fur to return. 11:17 p.m. A soft growl behind her. She turned around. Dune sat on the doorstep, eyes glowing bright. She laughed, just a little. Thought you ditched me? It growled back. Short, just enough to tell her. I heard. I came back. Day 1169. Lyla marked in her notebook. No longer counting days to know when I'll leave. I count the times it returns, to know I'm still here. Everything changed with one phone call. Day 1221. Kale 32. Lyla was preparing Dune's breakfast. A bit of heated canned meat mixed with warm water. Dune hadn't shown up yet. As usual, it would be wandering somewhere, surveying the territory, hunting mice, or perhaps just testing her patience. And then the satellite phone rang. Not an alarm, not a patrol channel. The line is reserved only for command. She froze mid-motion. Her finger hovered over the radio switch. A chill ran down her spine like someone was peeling her skin back layer by layer. Reyes here. Reyes, this is Commander Walker. I'm calling from Fort Huachuca. She straightened instinctively. Yes, sir. You've been reassigned. Operation Code Echo 17. Departure in 72 hours. Each word hit her ear like a pebble dropped into a still lake. Redeployment. That's correct. Middle East, Details will be encrypted and sent shortly. You are to report to Davis Monthan Air Force Base by 1800 hours, Thursday, for transport. I thought Echo was a 2-year post. This is an exceptional case. New orders from Washington. You're one of the few with multi-layer sensory specialization and gray zone combat clearance. They need you, Reyes. Silence. A pause. Then she swallowed. Copy. I'll be ready. She hung up. Back straight, face cold. But her hands trembled. Dune. She opened the door and stepped outside. The sunlight slammed into her face like it meant to peel the skin off. Echo Camp had never felt this small. Like a sealed box, too tight for the fear swelling inside her. Dune! She whistled twice. No reply. Hey, come out. I need to talk to you. The wind blew by, lifting red dust and a hollow feeling that stretched endlessly. Dune didn't appear all morning. She sat on the step, chin on her hand, eyes scanning the sandy yard. The first time I have something to say, and you decide to disappear on me. Silence. Then, from afar, a small shape emerged across the ground. Dune. Calm, unbothered, as if nothing unusual had happened. She looked at it and saw what she hadn't dared to think about for 3 years. She couldn't take it with her. That evening, she turned on the desk lamp. In her hands was the encrypted mission dossier. The details had arrived. 6-month redeployment with possible extension. Target area, Syrian-Turkish border. Requirement, no attachments. Attachments, she murmured, then gave a faint laugh. She had lived a life without attachments. No friends, no partner, no family. And then the desert had thrown a limping bobcat into her life and shattered every definition she ever had of alone. Day 1222. She began packing. Every cable coil, every ammunition crate, every solar panel. She hid every trace of Dune, scrubbed the paw prints, dismantled the makeshift shelter behind the camp. She did it like a criminal covering up evidence. Because that's exactly what she was. Just as she folded the old blanket, the one Dune had lain on when it was wounded, the radio shrieked again. Echo, this is Patrol Unit 412. Arriving at 1800 with a temporary replacement. Confirm handover readiness. Copy. Her voice caught slightly. That afternoon, Dune sat atop the container, its favorite sunset perch. Lyla stood below. Listen, she began. Dune didn't respond. I'm leaving soon. It could be a while. Could be I never come back. Silence. You don't understand, do you? After all, you're just a wild bobcat, and I'm just a woman watching cameras in the desert. Neither of us owes the other anything. Dune turned its face away. You know what, kid? Her voice had grown hoarse. I used to think I was strong, but these past 3 years, the only thing that's kept me going hasn't been the mission. It's been waiting for you to finish breakfast every morning. That night, she called the Arizona Wildlife Conservation Center. I have a bobcat. Can't release it, can't domesticate it. It was injured once. Now healthy, but it can't survive on its own. I need you to help it keep living. The man on the other end fell silent for a few seconds, then said, We'll come. Don't let it disappear. She hung up. Dune was sitting behind her, who knows for how long. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, but it remained still. No need to ask. She knew. It had heard, and it understood. The sky hadn't brightened yet. The darkness hadn't lifted, but it wasn't whole anymore either. Like that space between going and staying, between holding on and letting go, between a soldier and a wild creature. A space Lyla Reyes had never been taught how to handle. She had packed everything the night before. 3 backpacks strapped tight. Weapons were checked one last time. The new mission code was folded and ready in her left chest pocket. She knew the procedure. She'd done dozens of reassignments, but this time there was one thing not in the protocol: saying goodbye to a creature she had never touched. She sat on the low step outside Echo Camp, holding a bowl of food still warm. Every day for the past 3 years, at this exact time, Dune would appear. And as usual, it wasn't late. From far off, beyond the shadow of the old container, its distinct gait emerged. Once slow from a bullet wound, now steady, silent like sand. Dune walked closer. Not too fast, not cautious. It didn't know today was the last day. Or maybe it did, but didn't say so. Lyla placed the bowl down, then sat on the ground. Not on the step, not standing. She wanted to be on the same ground as it. One last time. "You might hate me for this," she said softly, her eyes never leaving the Bobcat. "But I'm doing this for you. I swear." Dune ate slowly, eyes never leaving hers. She wanted to say more, but the words caught. Her chest tightened. Not from sorrow, but from something long unnamed over these 3 years, now beginning to fracture inside her. "You know." She tried to smile, but only one corner of her lips moved. "I used to think living alone would be easier. No worries, no losses. Nothing to be bound to." A pause. "But then you came, and every morning I'd wake up, the first thing I'd think was, is it still here?" Dune looked up at her. That look was not from an animal. It was from a presence that knew. The time to part had come. From afar, the sound of an engine, faint but clear. The transport vehicle from the conservation center was arriving. They were on time just as she'd arranged. Everything was on schedule. Except her heart hadn't arrived at the moment of letting go. She stood up as the wheels touched the gate. A wildlife staff member stepped out. Cool, professional, but gentle. Like someone who had done this kind of farewell many times before. "This is the Bobcat you mentioned on the phone?" the man asked. Lyla nodded. "His name is Dune. We can make this quick if you'd rather skip the ending." "No," she cut in, her voice firmer than she expected. "I'll hand him over myself." The man hesitated, then nodded. He opened the carrier door, placed it low on the ground, and stepped back. Lyla turned to Dune. It still stood there, didn't run. She stepped closer, very slowly. She hadn't touched it in 3 years, and today she would still honor that principle. The only difference was, this time, her hands were shaking. "Go," she said, not loud, but loud enough for the wind to carry. "No need to look back." Dune stared at her for a long moment, longer than it ever had before. Its eyes shone with something unclear. Sadness, perhaps, or simply understanding. Then it turned, walked into the carrier. No one said a word. No one moved. There was no struggle, no tears, just a wild animal, walking on its own into the inevitable. The carrier door clicked shut. A small sound, yet it echoed in Lyla's chest like the whole desert had just closed behind her. The man lifted the carrier and nodded at her. "We'll keep him safe." Lyla pressed her lips tightly. "You don't have to keep him. Just don't let him forget." The man didn't reply. He understood. She stood there, watching the white SUV fade into the dust. No waving, no goodbye, because some things are meant to be held only in the heart. When the car vanished, Lyla turned back toward the camp. She walked slowly. Her feet barely touched the ground. In her hand, she held a small object. Dune's only milk tooth. She'd kept it from the first season. Dune shed his baby teeth. It had fallen onto the gray blanket. She'd picked it up, meant to throw it away, then tucked it into her pocket. Left it there. Today, it became the last thing that remained. The desert stayed the same, the sun stayed the same. Echo Camp was still a block of steel amidst burning sand. But from now on, it would feel emptier than ever before. And Lyla, she was no longer the soldier she had been 3 years ago. Cities are louder than deserts. That was the first thing Lyla noticed when she stepped back into Davis Monthan. Voices, horns, rushed footsteps and handshakes that didn't need sincerity. After 3 years in Echo, where even the wind had shape, the noise felt out of rhythm with her own heartbeat. "Reyes, welcome back." Lieutenant Colonel Sloan held out a hand. Cold, formal, not a glance wasted. "Ready for your next assignment?" She nodded. "Yes, sir." No one asked, "Are you okay?" No one knew. The only part of her that was okay had left in that white vehicle across the bright sand. The new mission was training reconnaissance teams in biosensory detection, the kind of work she'd done her entire life. She taught about heat signatures, sound analysis, tracking, all the things she'd learned from humans and from a creature that never once said her name. Each night, she returned to her small military apartment. Clean room, soft AC hum, blanket folded, regulation perfect. But there were no growls at dusk, no paw prints in the sand by the bed, and no quiet eyes watching her without needing to ask anything. 3 months after leaving Echo, an email appeared in her inbox. From Julian Rowe, Arizona Wildlife Conservation Center. Subject, Dune. Lyla opened it with her left hand. Her right was slightly trembling. "Dear Ms. Reyes, I'm writing to inform you that Dune is adapting well. He lives in a semi-wild enclosure spanning 2.5 acres with terrain similar to where you once cared for him. Dune keeps his distance from staff. Not friendly, but not fearful. He eats regularly, hunts small prey well, and shows signs of remembering the sound of a whistle. Last week, I happened to whistle twice to call a rescued falcon, and Dune emerged from hiding and stared for a long time. It's possible. He hasn't forgotten you." Lyla sat still in front of the screen. Her hand rested on the keyboard, typing nothing. She didn't reply that day, not because she didn't want to, but because some forms of missing don't need to be written to be real. Inside the sanctuary, on spring afternoons, a light brown bobcat often sat still atop the highest rock. It looked toward the tree line where the wind whispered through as if carrying distant voices. It didn't hunt. It didn't sleep. It just sat. And sometimes it let out a low, gentle sound. Chirr. A sound not meant for anyone present. but for a memory that had once been vividly real. In the 7th month, Lyla had a work trip near Arizona. On her way back to base, she took a detour past the sanctuary. She didn't ask to go in. She simply parked at a distance near the outermost fence, where a few rocky ledges from Dune's area were visible. She stood still, didn't call, didn't whistle. She only wanted to know if she was still needed. The wind passed by, colder than she remembered. A tuft of fur appeared on the edge of the rock. Unclear, not approaching, but those eyes still gleamed with the gold she once knew. Nothing certain, but in her heart, that quiet nod was enough. She got back in the car, hands on the steering wheel, eyes misted, not from the wind. She simply said softly, just enough for herself to hear, "I'm still here, Dune. Just not close anymore." And like that, a soldier, a bobcat, an invisible thread, not cut by distance, not faded by time. It was an afternoon like many others in Arizona. The sun still poured soft orange gold over the mountain slopes. The wind still brushed across the wild grass, like fingers tracing the desert skin. And within a sanctuary nestled deep between rocky hills and shrubs, a bobcat still chose to sit on its familiar stone. Dune was no longer the young bobcat from years ago. He had grown into a full adult male, strong, silent, and self-possessed. But he still didn't like anyone standing too close, unless... A whistle echoed, very soft, very distant. 2 short notes, disjointed but familiar. He looked up, ears perked, eyes wide. There was nothing by the fence, only wind and the sun and emptiness. But Dune still stood up, took a few steps, watched, then sat in the exact spot where, for 3 years, he had once sat beside a woman without needing a word. He didn't growl, didn't chuff, he just was there. On the other side of the fence, behind a far-off bush, Lyla stood quietly. No uniform, no weapons, no orders. Just a human who had once survived, once loved, and once let go of something without knowing if it would ever return. She didn't call, didn't speak, just watched, eyes misty, not from sorrow, but from fullness. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small object, placed it on the ground. No wrapping, no label, just a baby tooth and a folded piece of paper, returning your piece. I've held it long enough. Then she turned to leave, didn't look back, because sometimes goodbyes are best said with one's back turned, so that what's left behind can live on, true to its wild nature. On the rock, Dune still sat. His eyes followed, but he didn't chase. He didn't need to, because he understood real affection isn't measured by distance. It only needs one thing: to remain in each other's memory, by choice. That evening, in her old room at Davis-Monthan, Lyla sat by the half-open window. Outside, the sky was full of stars. She raised her hand to her lips and whistled twice, short and soft. No one answered, only the wind swept through. But she still smiled, because sometimes love doesn't need to be answered. It only needs to be kept. Right where it began, a lonely watch post, a moment without orders, and a wild creature who chose to stay beside a human.